Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Filipe Pinheiro. You can find me on almost everywhere with the handle Pinheiro. I'm a software engineer at YLD, and most of the time I'm not presenting. I'm behind the keyboard developing Node.JS applications. And I'm here today to talk to you about moving your project from code to production. So a little disclaimer before we start. I'm just giving you a possibility on how you can do stuff. The part of the code you can swap for anything. I'm using Gitlab for the demonstration, but you can use GitHub, you can use Bitbucket, you can use any of the available tools. And for the production, I'm using Kubernetes to manage my system, my servers. You can use Azure, you can use just a machine on DigitalOcean or anywhere and just use systemd or any init system that you like. You'll see the end on 2 or 3 slides. It's just a raise of hands if you know what I'm talking about and if I need to explain it further. Docker, I think I don't need to explain it further because you heard about it in the keynote. So that's a positive point. And so let's start talking about the development process. Usually, the development process, you need to commit your code to the repository. You need to make some tests to it. You need to deploy it to an environment so you can test. And what I'm proposing is all these steps should not be manual. You should have some tool that does that for you. So this is a flow of what you do. You have your code, you push to a version control system, you have some magical stuff. If the build passes, you have a deployable artifact that you can put on a server. Otherwise, you need to go back to code and do it all over again and debug it and so on. The thing is, if you have an automated process to do this, it should take as little time as possible. So you don't have a context switch and you don't start working on a new feature. And if you have a problem in your pipeline, in your build, you need to do a context switch and get back to and read the documentation of what you need to do and what you need to debug and how the feature should be working. As I said, for the version control part, I will use GitLab. Which one of you are familiar with GitLab? Okay, GitLab is just like GitHub, but it's not really GitHub. It's an open source solution to manage your code. It has some nice features. It has a pipeline built in. It has a Docker registry built in, and other stuff that will help us through this process. We'll use GitLab to do continuous integration. And what continuous integration is? Continuous integration is the possibility of validating the code you push to a repository. So every time you push to your repository, you do some tests on it to see if everything is OK or if something is wrong. The continuous integration, as any other process that I will talk about, it's a matter of trust. You need to trust that the tests you do are the ones that you need to do in order to ensure that the code doesn't have any bugs, or you'll get that bug in production, which is not very good. So, as I said before, we have continuous integration in GitLab. Sorry, yeah. And how you do... It was supposed to be a box over here, but I don't have enough colors on the monitor, it seems. So continuous integration on GitLab is done using runners. Runners are like little demons that run what you want to do to validate your code. Runners can run anywhere. They don't run on GitLab. It can run on your development laptop. It can run on the cloud on any server. It can run pretty much everywhere because you can use Docker to run your runner. In order to run the runner, you just need to pull the runner from the Docker registry, and you need to register it. In order to register it, you just need the GitLab URL and the token to make it run. And as soon as you do this, every time you push your code to GitLab, the runner will execute the code that you want to validate it. In this case, what we want to validate is just building the container image and running npm run test on it. So if the Docker run exits with a 0, we have a successful build. Otherwise, we have a failed build, and we need to check what the problem is. And we have continuous integration with GitLab. It's as simple as that. Having a GitLab.ci YAML file on the root of your repository and having a runner that can run your code or your test code. Now about continuous delivery. Which one of you know about continuous delivery? Are familiar with continuous delivery? So continuous delivery is the process from pushing your code to having a deployable artifact to the server. So imagine that you need to do a new feature. When you push the code, you need to have something that you can deploy to a server. In our case, we have a Docker image available in a registry that we can deploy to a server. So as you can see, the box should be around gitlab.com, the runner, and the deployable artifact. And in order to do that, the only thing that you need is building the container, logging into the registry, and pushing the image to the registry. And we have continuous delivery. And now for the server part. For the server part, I will demonstrate it using Kubernetes. Which one of you know about Kubernetes and are familiar with it? So Kubernetes manages a cluster of services in a container-centric way. So you tell Kubernetes, this is the state of my cluster. I want to have 3 containers of this image running, and Kubernetes manages it and has services, load balancers. You can have jobs. You can have scalability. It manages all of that for you. I think in the other room, they're talking about this. I was expecting that the talk would be after, so I wouldn't have to explain more. But OK, so in Kubernetes, we have plenty of objects. We have the deployment that manages what you want to run. You have the services that expose your deployments to the cluster. You have secrets. In this case, we'll use secrets in order to connect to the GitLab registry, because we need a user and the password. And we have pods, nodes, a bunch of stuff that I'll not use now. So, and how do you configure Kubernetes? The only thing that you need to do is create a YAML file with all the spec that you want. So you can have a configuration file that says that you want 3 pods running the container you just built. And in order to do that, you have the kube command line tool, where you can create, apply, and delete objects. I don't advise you to use the create method, or if you use the create method, use the save config option, because if you do one apply and then another, Kubernetes will do the diff between both of the configuration files and try to manage them as good as it can. So imagine that you have 3 pods running version 1 of your application, and you want to deploy version 2 of your application. Kubernetes will kill pods of the old version and raising pods of the other version in parallel. So you'll have 0 downtime. You can have some issues, but. So, and how you integrate Kubernetes and GitLab to have continuous deployment. Continuous deployment is the step of delivering your artifact to a server. So you'll have a new stage on your GitLab CI file that just says, OK, I need to build. As you can see there, the dockerfile.deploy, it's not the same file to run your application. I'll show you later. It's a Docker file specific to do the deploy. This way, you don't need to install any particular application or command line tool on your runner, because it will run inside the Docker container. And that's it. We have a deploy configuration. And this is important also. You need to have the secrets that you need in order to access the GitLab instance. And how to create a secret? You just need to use the kube command line tool to create the secret and tell it the username, the password, the email, and the server that you are using. So this is the object that we'll have on our Kubernetes cluster. We'll have ingress. Ingress is an object on Kubernetes that allows you to expose a service to everyone. You'll have a service. Service manages the pods that you have. A pod in this case is just a container that we are exposing. So the service exposes the pod in the cluster. to the ingress. And you have the deployment. The deployment controls how many pods do you have of a particular instance. And if you have all the flow, you push your code, the code goes to GitLab, the runner runs your tests, creates a deployable artifact, and then updates every object on the Kubernetes to reflect the last version of your application. And we have a GitLab pipeline. So now, hands on the code. So I have a small application that just prints one date, random UID, the version of our application, and the host that it's running. So if you see here, if I can show you, okay, kubectl, you have a namespace, and you get all the state of our cluster. So we have 3 pods running our production environment, 3 pods running our master environment, our master branch. We have 1 service that's exposing the pods on the master branch and 1 service exposing the pods on the production environment. We have the deploys that are controlling the number of pods that we have running, and we have the replica set that just controls the pods. So remember that I told you that Kubernetes tries to be good about stuff. So imagine that I delete one of the pods dies. After that, I'll have the pod running. You'll have a new pod running that's available, that was created 7 seconds ago. So if you declare the state of the cluster properly, you don't need to manage the number of instances that you have running, because Kubernetes will make sure that they are running. So let me just show you how a pipeline looks like on GitLab. So the pipeline looks like this. You have the build step, you have the test step, you have the deploy step, and you have the release step. The release step only happens for master. So imagine that I create a new branch. A new branch can be fixed, okay? And I just change the version to, I don't know how to use Vim, apparently. Yeah. And I just push it. And I just push it to GitLab. Oh, come on. Okay. This worked better yesterday. So I have a branch. I create a new branch with version. Okay, create branch. So as you can see, as soon as I create the branch, as soon as I create a new branch, I will have a new pipeline. Well, it seems like it pushed. I'll have a new pipeline running. So this will take a while, so I'll guide you through the process of the actual build script. So as I said earlier, we have the GitLab CI document. This is what you use to run our deploy script. We need a lot of stuff, yeah, but that's just because just to represent the state of our cluster. As I said, we have a deployment script. The labels part is just so the service, in order to find the pods that it needs to expose, it uses a selector that's based on the labels that you define. So we define a pod with a bunch of selectors, and the service filters them out using that. So as you can see, I want 3 replicas, and I want to use the pod, the image that I just compiled. This GL image tag is the commit hash. And aside from the deployment script, I need the service script. Just exposing and selecting the same stuff that I defined on the other file. And I have an ingress file that just exposes my service in a URL that I defined. So if everything went according to plan, I have a deploy and I have a set of environments. And on the dev environment, I will have a bump that is available for everyone. So you can develop your feature, and as soon as you commit the code in the pipeline end, you have your feature is available for you to test in probably 2 minutes. So you can grab a coffee, or you can, if you use the Pomodoro technique, you can have your break, commit your code, have your break, and you go back to a new Pomodoro. You'll have or start a new feature or fix the build that you broke. And that's pretty much what I have to show you. You can also, so remember that I told you that only the master releases to production. So I have the dev hello. I want to go to my production site. So it's just hello. And, oh, come on. Yeah, believe me, this works. Oh, I'm having troubles with the connection. So, não dá. É por causa do certificado. It's because of the certified. It's not working properly. But so, let's make a change on the package.json just to change the version of the master. To just to be this will run the pipeline. We'll deploy to the dev master hello branch because it's a branch, and we'll deploy to production. So we have continuous integration. We are running the tests. We have continuous delivery because we are creating the artifacts needed to deploy in multiple environments, and we have continuous delivery because you are pushing to production. And yeah, it takes a while. As you see, I have 4 steps on my pipeline. I have the deploy, and after deploy, I have the release. And come on, this was working so good yesterday. Okay, it's working. No, it's not working because I'm on the wrong branch. Okay, believe me, it works. Yeah, I can do a curl. I can do a curl, yeah. I can curl to HTTPS. Hello. Who cares about security, right? Okay, it was just killing the pod and creating a new one. Or it was not doing that. Yeah, so curl works. I'm just waiting for my pipeline to finish. It's still on the test phase.
Where do you select which will trigger the release? Just on master and
okay.
the other, right?
I can show you the GitLab CI file. You have a bunch of stuff on. So you have 4 stages, right? You have the build, the test, and the deploy. And as you can see on the release production, this release stage should only run on the master branch. And this is the only thing that you need to do. You can have specific stages that run only on your staging environment, integration environment, or if you need to specify different environment variables, it's just have fun and read the documentation of GitLab CI. It's taking a lot of time to build this. It's not normal. So, but we have the deploy phase is already there. And as you can see, if I go to dev hello master, or it's dev hello master, I have version, I don't know if you can see it properly. I have the new version already deployed to the server. And that's it. You can have, you need to be worried about creating a good pipeline. Getting back to my presentation. So you need to have a good pipeline, but you also need to trust it. If you don't have tests and you are just blindly pushing to master, it will end badly for you because you'll end up having code in production that it's not tested and it doesn't work properly. And even if you trust that your tests have 100% test coverage and you are covering everything that could go wrong in code, there are other things that can go wrong. Your pod can be unavailable, you can have an invalid certificate, and you have bad SSL on production. But you also need to take care of, do proper logging on your services to have easier debugging when you have the issues. Do monitoring to see if everything is available to your users. Security is also important because you need to protect your servers from the outside. The storage I didn't cover, but you need to be careful about storage. Storage in Docker, you can use volumes, but volumes are inside the same node. You need to find proper ways to deal with it. But in the end, you need to test and monitor and do proper logging. And that's it. That's what I have for you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. Oh, and if you want to go, if you have time to go, oh, come on, now that I finished. If you want to go outside, we have a booth, the Wildy booth. It's available. We are hiring, and we'll have a contest for a cat box. Yeah. If you don't know where the cat box is, talk with Greta. She will explain it to you. Oh, yeah. I can show you. Gitlab has the main purpose of the script for deployment is stateless, so you don't need a state to deploy it. It just picks up environment variables and does that for you. If you go to the environment list and you go to production, any of the deploy scripts that you run previously, you can just run them again, and the same deploy script that you used to deploy to production or to any URL, it will run again, and you'll have the same state as you had previously. So it's as simple as using the same deploy script to have it on a new version.
Thanks to the commits or something, it will show up there. Like if you just.
Yeah, as you can see here, you have. Yeah, you can even, if you just want to release to production a particular tag, when you push the tags, you can do it on GitLab CI. Remember that only master. You can have only master, only branches, only tags. You can even have regex to filter out the ones you want. So imagine that you just want to publish features. You can just publish features. Yeah, I said that one of the reasons why I choose GitLab was because you have a registry. So everything that you build and you push, you'll have available on the registry of GitLab. That's why you need the secret on Kubernetes in order to access this registry. Based on the code that you committed, doing a build or not doing a build, I don't think that's possible. But you have the documentation of GitLab CI, you need to go through it. But I don't think it's possible. I think it's on every commit. No more questions? No more questions? So I think you can go to an early coffee break. Thank you all for being here. And don't forget, Wildy booth, and see you around.